I first saw Ilara at the old cemetery in Eldridge on a rainy afternoon in October 2023. The air smelled like wet soil and decaying leaves. She stood by a weathered headstone, her umbrella forgotten at her feet. I was there visiting my sister's grave. Ilara turned, her eyes meeting mine. She had this quiet pull, like she understood loss without words. We talked briefly. She said the grave was her grandmother's. I felt drawn to her calm voice, the way it cut through the drizzle. That smell of earth lingered on her coat when she brushed past me to leave. Days later, I ran into her at the local library. She worked there, stacking books on folklore. I hesitated to approach. My friends warned me about her family. Odd folks, they said, with old rumors. But I couldn't shake her. We shared coffee in the break room. She mentioned a faint whisper she sometimes heard near the graves. I laughed it off, but it unsettled me. Work kept me busy. I had goals, a promotion at the mill, saving for a house. Romance felt like a distraction. Yet her texts came, simple and warm. One night, walking home, I heard a distant echo, like voices in the wind. I blamed the weather. We started seeing each other quietly. The unease grew when she showed me a scar on her wrist from a childhood fall in that cemetery. It looked fresh somehow. I pushed it aside. Love was creeping in, despite everything. One evening, under the full moon, we returned to the cemetery. Ilara pulled me close by her grandmother's grave. She whispered her secret. She'd lost her voice as a child after a fever, only regaining it there, screaming into the earth. I shared mine. My sister's death in a car crash, how I'd blamed myself. We kissed then, promising to face our ghosts together. It felt final, like sealing a door behind us. For a few weeks, life brightened. We picnicked by the river, her laughter mixing with the water's rush. The sun warmed our skin, and for once, the world felt steady. She cooked soup in my small kitchen, the steam carrying hints of time. We talked about simple futures, a garden, maybe a dog. Those days were fragile, like glass in sunlight. Then came the accident. Ilara slipped while walking near the cemetery fence one foggy morning. She hit her head on a stone marker. The doctor said concussion, but she woke changed. She claimed the whispers were louder now, calling her name from that same grave. It tied back to her childhood story, the fever that stole her voice. I dismissed it at first, but her eyes grew distant, shadowed. She stopped eating much. Nights, I'd find her staring at the window, murmuring responses to nothing. The house filled with silence, broken only by her soft echoes. I begged her to see someone. She refused, saying the voices needed her. One afternoon, she vanished. I searched the town, heart pounding. Found her at the cemetery, digging with bare hands near the headstone. Dirt under her nails, a wild look in her eyes. She said the grave held both our voices now, mine from grief, hers from the past. I pulled her away, but she fought, whispering promises to the earth. The horror deepened. Shadows seemed to move in our home, cold spots where warmth should be. I'd wake to footsteps in empty rooms, the smell of turned soil indoors. Ilara's rage turned inward. She scratched at her throat, claiming the voices choked her. I held her through nights of denial, bargaining with whatever force gripped us. My love twisted into obsession. I read old books on local legends, stories of graves that trapped echoes of the living. It fueled my fear. One storm-filled night, she slipped out again. I followed to the cemetery. Rain pounded the ground. She stood over the grave, arms outstretched. Lightning flashed. She collapsed, unmoving. The paramedics said heart failure, but I knew better. The voices had claimed her. I buried her there, beside her grandmother, the same plot as she once wished. Days blurred into a quiet loss. I visit often now. The wind carries faint murmurs, like our old conversations. Sometimes I whisper back, wondering if she's listening. And in that shared silence, our voices linger, unfinished. I met Thorne in the dusty attic of the Willowbrook Community Hall during a yard sale in June 2024. The air carried the faint scent of mothballs and aged wood. He was sorting through old records, his fingers pausing on a cracked vinyl. I was there hunting for my late father's tools. Thorne glanced up, his eyes holding a quiet sorrow that mirrored my own. We talked about lost things, how they linger. That scent clung to his shirt when he handed me a forgotten wrench. Weeks passed before I saw him again. He lived on the edge of town, in a rented cabin. My neighbors whispered about him, said he came from a line of wanderers with bad luck. I resisted at first. My job at the bakery demanded early hours. I wanted stability, maybe even a family someday. But his calls came, gentle and persistent. One evening he hummed a low tune while we walked the woods. It echoed strangely, like it bounced off unseen walls. I shivered, but blamed the chill. Intimacy built slowly. We'd share lunches, his hand brushing mine. The unease grew with that hum. It followed me home sometimes, faint in the night. Still, I chased my goals, saved tips for a down payment on a place. Love felt risky, yet Thorne pulled me in. We committed one rainy night in his cabin. He lit a candle, the flame flickering on his face. He confessed his family's curse, echoes that trapped voices of the dead. I told him about my father's sudden passing, the silence it left. We held hands, vowing to break the patterns. It felt like crossing a bridge with no way back. Our kiss sealed it, warm against the storm outside. Happiness came in small bursts. One Sunday, we sat by the lake, feet in the water. Sunlight danced on the ripples, his laughter light and free. We shared bread I'd baked, crumbs falling like confetti. For that hour, worries faded. The world narrowed to us. But it was brittle, like thin ice underfoot. The change hit during a hike in the hills. Thorne tripped on a loose rock, falling hard. His head struck the ground. Blood trickled. But he woke, mumbling about echoes calling him. It linked to his hum, the curse he'd mentioned. Doctors called it a mild trauma, but his eyes changed, distant and hollow. He claimed voices answered when he spoke names. I waved it off as confusion. Soon he withdrew. Nights the cabin filled with unnatural quiet, broken by his whispers. I'd find him in the corner, listening to nothing. The smell of damp earth invaded our rooms. Like something unearthed, I denied it. Cooked his favorites, begged him to rest. He raged one day, accusing the echoes of stealing his words. I bargained with him, promised trips, therapy, but obsession took hold. Footsteps echoed in empty halls at midnight. Shadows lengthened unnaturally. My love fueled the fear. I couldn't leave him to it. One full moon, he wandered into the woods alone. I followed, heart racing. He stood in a clearing, whispering my name over and over. Something answered. A chorus of voices, faint and twisted. He turned to me, eyes wide. Then he collapsed, clutching his throat. The medic said aneurysm, but I heard the echoes fade as he went still. I sold the bakery steak after, moved to a quiet apartment downtown. Days pass in routine, but nights bring silence too deep. I avoid the woods now. The cabin stands empty. Sometimes, in the dark, I whisper his name and wait.
I met Silas at the corner market in Harlan during a snowstorm in December 2022. The air smelled sharp, like pine cleaner from the shelves. He reached for the last loaf of bread, his hand brushing mine with a gentle apology. I was shopping for basics after a long shift. His smile held a quiet ache, like he carried unspoken stories. It hooked me, the way he seemed to see my own hidden tiredness. That pine scent followed him out the door. I saw him again at the post office. He mailed letters every week, old-fashioned habit. Friends said to steer clear. His family had a history of bad ends, whispers of misfortune. I held back. My nursing job at the clinic took all my time. I aimed for a certification, maybe move to the city. Romance could wait. But we chatted over coffee runs. He spoke an odd phrase once. Water remembers. It stuck, uneasy like a half-forgotten warning. Closeness came anyway. Walks in the park, his arm around me. The fear lingered, but so did the pull. We drove to the frozen lake one night. Silas stopped the car, snow falling soft. He shared his secret. Nightmares of drowning since childhood, pulling him under. I confessed my fear of loss after my parents' crash. We linked pinkies, promising to hold on no matter what. It felt binding, like ink on skin. No turning back after that. Joy peaked on the quiet evening in my apartment. We cooked pasta, steam rising warm. Laughter filled the room, his touch light on my back. Candlelight flickered. For those hours, life felt whole, wrapped in simple comfort, like a bubble waiting to pop. The accident struck during a spring thaw in 2023. Silas went fishing on the lake, boat tipping in sudden wind. He hit the water hard, lungs filling. It echoed his nightmares, the water heat feared. Rescuers said hypothermia, but he came back changed, coughing shadows. Doctors called it near-drowning trauma. His eyes dimmed, distant. He whispered of pulls from below, voices in the deep. I denied it, nursed him at home. The apartment grew cold, even with heat on. Nights brought silence, thick and waiting. I'd wake to wet footprints on the floor, leading nowhere. Smell of lake mud seeped in. Silas raged, clawing at his throat. It won't let go, he said. I bargained. Doctors, priests, anything. My love twisted, keeping me there as obsession grew. Footsteps echoed in empty rooms. Doors creaked shut on their own. His grief fed it, pulling us both under. One dawn he slipped out. I found him at the lake's edge, staring into the water. He turned, face pale. "Something's calling," he murmured. Then he stepped in, vanishing below. They dragged the lake. Official cause? Suicide by drowning. But I felt the pull, the water's memory claiming him. I quit the clinic after, sold the apartment, moved to a dry inland town. Routine helps. Walks, books, quiet days. The lake haunts my dreams still. Sometimes I wonder if his love echoes back from the depths.